So I think it's draft season. It's the 27th of August here in Australia, 26th of August in the States, and we are, I want to say, 5 weeks away from the preseason. So yeah, I'm calling this officially draft season, even though it is really only the sickos that are doing it at the moment. Welcome to Stuff It, a fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Old Man Squad Network, and brought to you by FanDuel. Joining me today, Noah Rubin, fellow old man or young man. I'm going to call you the young man because of your show. First time on the show since I got back from our little soiree in Las Vegas. How are things?
Things are good. I guess if you're going to call me the young man, I'll just call you the stuff. You're just the stuff now. Like
Sure,
you got
I'll
the
be
stuff.
So,
but yeah, things are going well. It is definitely preseason content. Maybe it's like that little like mock draft phase before actual draft season, but like you said, it all runs together. Basically at this point it is off season, or it's no longer off season, it is now preseason content. I'm still cranking out as much dynasty stuff as I can handle, and then pretty soon we'll start leaning towards some redraft stuff for a bit.
Yeah, well, we're already doing the player notes and stuff. I'm already doing player outlooks and some preseason articles, and I'm sure you are. There's plenty of content out there already. You've had a lot of shows coming out over the last, I don't know, it's been a while. You're up to like 80 episodes or something. Is that
getting close? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you, and look, I think I don't know if there's still a thought process or a consensus, not a consensus, but that if you do redraft and not dynasty, why would you listen to dynasty? I listen to your shows and I think you can pull as much information from them as you want, even if you're not doing a dynasty league. I think it's all still very relevant. So yeah, do go and check out Noah's show. You've had a lot of guests on. Matt Lawson seems to be a regular now. Are we calling him a regular guest?
Yeah, no, it's a once a week appearance. That's what we have planned out, and it's great because it's not just me talking into a microphone for 30 to 45 minutes until my voice hurts. I'm able to ask him a question and let him talk for 30 to 45 minutes until his voice hurts. It's great.
Yeah, always good to share the load. So go and follow Noah at Noah Rubin 22. I'm at Adam King 91. At Old Man Squad is where you'll find all of our stuff. Do like, rate, and subscribe, and do all of that stuff. It's a curious time of the season. I think the numbers are slowly ticking away, and I think the Old Man Squad is building nicely. Dan seems pretty happy with the work that we're all doing, and you especially. You've been doing a lot more than me. We're going to go through a mock draft. So we did a mock draft hosted by Steve St. Pierre from Menace Podman. When did we do this? I want to say like 4 days ago, 5 days ago, maybe. I feel like it was the weekend for
something
me.
Like so. It was the weekend for me as well, so that helps.
Okay, so it must have been a Sunday for me. So it's Wednesday here, so 3 days ago. Now you had the first pick. I had the second pick. Now we didn't pick these. This was just generated randomly. And throughout the draft, there were a couple of instances where I had a nice queue lined up, and of course, you picking in front of me back to back, you took some of the players that I had at the top of my queue, and I had to reevaluate and made some curious picks, which I look at now and go, I don't think I like that one. You went with one. You went with Jokic. I mean, he's obviously your number one player this season. Were you considering Wemby? Were you considering Shea? Anyone else?
Well, for starters, I just need to say, like, I'm excited to hear who I took from you, because during the draft you said like you were frustrated that I kept taking your guys, and I didn't see the messages till after, so I don't even know who I took or when I took your players. So I'm excited to find out. But you also did take at least one from me now that I'm looking at, which we'll get to. No, Jokic is the number one player to me. I think this top three is the top three. I think to me it's Jokic, Wemby, SGA, but honestly, it's not something I'm super passionate about. If you would have taken any of those three, I could pick anybody else, then I'm probably like, don't love that. But to me, Jokic's consistent availability, well-rounded production, dominant, well-rounded production. It's difficult to take anybody else, in my opinion.
Yeah, now I went with Shea at number 2. I knew I would be taking one of these 3 players, and I still prefer Wemby. Like I have Wemby as my number 1 this season, but I went with Shea purely because I think he's a little bit easier to build a punt around for me. Both Jokic and Wemby are tricky because they're good at everything, but the things that if you're building a typical punt build, a big man build, they're not great at your typical big man stats. All of them. So Jokic doesn't block shots, so you sort of have to then lean into blocks a little bit more later. Wemby doesn't shoot like 55%, 58% from the field. So there's just some I guess curious sort of stat sets for those guys. I think Shea is more of a typical. He gives you guard stats. He gives you some assists. He's good at steals. He's not great at threes, but he hits threes. Good from the free throw line. Good scorer. So that's purely why I went with Shea here. I just thought, hey, I'm going to punt something here. I'm going to go with Shea and just punt some big man stats. So coming back, I had picked 23. You had picked 24. I went with LaMelo Ball here. Perfect fit in terms of skill set. Is he healthy this year? I mean, no one knows the answer to that question. Take him at 23. I'd prefer to get him closer to 30, but he wasn't going to be there at my next 1 picks where I Morant. So I just went with LaMelo here. You went with Evan Mobley, who I think this is probably the range that we're going to see him going this season, anywhere sort of from about pick 15 on. Because of that log jam that's sitting there after about pick 6, you've got a round and a half of players to consider. And then you went with Chet. So you've sort of gone very big, very early. Were you sort of looking at any sort of punt here, or you were just trying to get those big man stats off the board early?
Yeah, I think when I'm doing mocks, my strategy isn't necessarily to focus on a punt, especially this early. I'm maybe going more for just best player available. So I wasn't super hard leaning into any sort of punt build, but I was also kind of like, hey, I guess I'm getting some bigs early on. I guess I'll go some guards later, just kind of go with that. But maybe it's a little bit of just, I've had more of a dynasty mentality, but this is 3 top 10 dynasty guys to me. So that's great. Yep. But obviously redraft league, so it doesn't quite work out the same, but I'm expecting a better season from Chet than what we saw last year when he was 20th in 9 cat leagues on Basketball Monster as a rookie. He saw his minutes decline last year. His percentages were down, and all of that had to do with the hip injury and him slowly recuperating. I think a fully healthy season, I'm expecting Chet to be more than worth the 25th pick. And then Evan Mobley just keeps getting better and better every single year. I don't know if he'll reach what the heights I think he can reach this year, but I still think he'll be worth the pick here. I think we won't really see just how good he can be as long as him and Jared Allen are sharing the floor together. But with how weak the East is this year, that they might have enough success that probably isn't going to change. But still, Evan Mobley he's been really good.
He has, very good. And I think part of his, I guess, whether he reaches that ceiling comes down to whether they play him at center a little bit more. Do we start to see them sort of move Jarrett Allen to not to the bench, but play them separately rather than together and run a slightly smaller lineup with Mobley at the center? Because I think that would then unlock him, obviously, defensively even more. I mean, he's a fantastic defensive player as it is. So, yeah, both of those picks make perfect sense there. I went with at pick 26, I went with Cooper Flagg. So probably on the high end, I think this is sort of the range he's going to go in, around 30. Look, he wasn't necessarily a great fit. It got me a forward, though, in this build. I need to get forwards and centers early, or I'm going to be stuck with guys like Al Horford at the back end. So I need to get some forwards and centers. So I took Cooper Flagg. I'm not really sure what to expect from him. I think he could certainly be a top 50, top 40 player this season. Best case scenario, probably top 20, but he'd need a lot to go his way. Now, he's obviously the standout in terms of rookies. And if you head over to FanDuel, you can see that he is the clear favourite for Rookie of the Year this year. And being the Dynasty expert on the show, other than Cooper Flagg, who obviously a lot of money will go down on him, what do you like in the betting there? Trey Johnson is second in the betting, followed by Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Con Knipple. Like, would you be sort of, I don't know, would you put any money on any of those guys? Anyone else that isn't on that list that you think could be a bit of a dark horse for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, so I think it's really just going to come down to, does Cooper Flagg play enough games? I think that there is one award. I think that the 65 game threshold doesn't necessarily matter, but I can't remember what it is or if it's Rookie of the Year. But maybe I'm just making that up. But Trey Johnson has the second highest odds to win Rookie of the Year, and I think that's definitely fitting. He's got a chance to be the leading scorer for Washington, or one of the leading scorers. And I think if you're able to get a rookie averaging like 18 points per game, that's definitely going to give you a strong case for Rookie of the Year. I don't think that the situation for Dylan Harper is set up for him to be that dominant, even though he is going to be one of the better players long-term. VJ Edgecombe is going to have a chance, especially if Philadelphia is more competitive this year than they were last year. He's helping them get to the playoffs. He's playing outstanding defense on the perimeter. He's starting. He'll have a shot. There is one other just deeper than I realized, deep sleeper pick, because his betting odds aren't even on FanDuel. But it's Ryan Kalkbrenner in Charlotte. And when they drafted him in the second round, the other options at center right now are Moussa Diabate, and I think is it Mason Plumlee's the other center there?
Sadly, it is, yeah.
Yeah, so like, I don't know who's going to start, but this guy that is a 7-footer that blocks a ton of shots, or can block a ton of shots, shoots a high percentage at the rim, halfway decent passer, like things that he can be pretty productive if he gets the opportunity and there's not a ton of competition for minutes. That's interesting. And if you're looking for somebody, whether it's a dynasty league or a deeper redraft league, like a late round flyer, Ryan Kalkbrenner could have one of the better rookie years.
Yeah, you're speaking my language there. I love him as a last round flyer. And let's just see. You'll know within a week, because he'll either start and play like 26 minutes or he'll come off the bench and play 15. I thought he looked pretty good at Summer League. My watching guys like Zach Edey, Donovan Clingan last season, and even just their college career, that sort of thing. To me, they look big and they look slow. Edey more so than Clingan, and that's something. I mean, that's just who they are. They're big, lumbering sort of players. Kalkbrenner looks like he has a little bit more mobility than those guys. I know he's not the defender that they are. Well, my understanding is that he's not. But if he's going to start and play, and LaMelo's healthy, Brandon Miller's healthy, Miles Bridges, if they're all healthy and can find him in the right spots, I think he's got a little bit of upside in terms of passing himself. So, I like Kalkbrenner. Take him with your last pick if he's there, and see what that first week looks like, because as we know, most fantasy managers will end up dropping at least 2 or 3 of their draft picks within the first week. So, I do like him. So coming back, pick 47 and pick 48, I went with Ja Morant. So again, just leaning into that guard build. A little bit of hesitation in terms of injuries with him, but at pick 47, I'm okay with that. He was, for a period there, he's going in the 20s and the 30s. That's too high, but if you can get him here at pick 47, I don't think I need to break that one down too much. You went with Lauri Markkanen, though, who is coming off a pretty poor season, both in terms of per game and totals. He didn't play a lot, and when he did play, he didn't play great. Has looked very good in the Eurobasket warm-up games. Now, we don't, however much you want to read into that is up to you, but I don't know. I feel like he may come into this season with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, like he has something to prove. Whether that lines up with what Utah want to do this season, I don't know, but just talk us through Lauri Markkanen here at 48, because I feel like in a lot of drafts, he's going much later than this.
If I can add in really quickly about Ja, firing Taylor Jenkins at the end of last season because basically he wasn't running the offense the way that they were hoping it would be ran, with a lot of pick and rolls with Ja Morant and Zach Edey. If that happens more this year, I'm expecting bigger seasons for both of them. So I really like Ja there at 47. As far as Markkanen, yes, he's coming off a poor season. I think they asked him to do different things than what he's good at, and it didn't work out. Maybe that was the intent to help the lottery odds. They said they're going to be committed to winning this year, or I guess not intentionally losing, and they went and traded all of their veteran pieces away. So it's really just Markkanen as far as the majority of the veteran pieces that they have. And he's, I would say, maybe currently viewed as, or was viewed as at one point, one of the worst contracts in the NBA. But I think he's more talented than that. So the focus here for Utah, especially early in the season, is going to be if they're not intending to lose, Markkanen is their best player. They're going to have to get him going and get him good looks. And that's going to be the goal of the team. So even if the end goal is, hey, we need to improve his trade value so that we can ship him out by February, get his contract off the books, and really start this next era of Utah Jazz basketball with another lottery pick in, I guess it'll be June, late June. And then we actually try and figure this thing out. Or it's, hey, we're actually going to try and be competitive this year. Either way, Markkanen is going to have to play at a high level. I think it's going to be a goal for them. It's going to be the way their offense is orchestrated to be able to get him better looks than what they did last year. I'm expecting a really solid bounce back from him. But I also remember in this moment of this draft, not seeing a ton of other options around here that I loved. I was like, I feel confident in a Lauri Markkanen bounce back season. I think a lot of the guys I was maybe looking at had just gone off the board. And I'm looking back, and guys like Jaylen Brown, Franz Wagner, Trey Murphy, Desmond Bane just went a few picks before John Morant as well. So those were guys that I was pretty interested in at this range. They were all gone. So I went with a guy that I think is going to have a bounce back year.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. I've heard on a few shows, and every year we sort of try to break the draft down into sections. So where is a nice area to be drafting, and then where is it sort of, oh, there's no one here that I really, it jumps off the page at me that I want to grab. And I think this year it's feeling like starting in this range, so sort of from around pick 50 through to pick 70 or 80. There's some nice value, I think, there, but there's just not a lot of names that you go, oh yeah, I need this guy on my team. So yeah, it's not to say that there is no value, because I think if you looked at the names through this draft, there is some value.
Sure.
But for me, yeah, like you sort of just said, there's no one here that screams pick me. Other than the guy that you stole from me next, who's Brandon Miller. So I considered him at 47. I thought, no, surely he's going to be there next pick. And sure enough, he was not. So that was the first time I questioned your legitimacy in the draft and said, who invited Noah? Because then I was just stuffed, because I had him, and then I had some other players. Like I took Fred VanVleet a little bit later. I had him. I'm like, I can't take Fred VanVleet at 50. I don't need to take him at 50. There were a couple other names I can't remember, but yeah, Brandon Miller, who I had my eyes on here. So you pick 49. I think he could be in for a really good season. I think whether LaMelo's healthy or not, obviously we would need Charlotte to hopefully be competitive in a weakened East. But if that is the case and he can play 65 plus games, I think we've seen enough from him, small snippets, but that he could push inside the top 40, top 30 this season. So talk us through Brandon Miller very quickly and why you stole him from me.
Well, it was really a personal attack on you. That's really the only reason I took him there. But he also is a high-level scorer, a really good shooter. Obviously, the big thing with Charlotte and every player in Charlotte is how healthy is the team going to be and how healthy is this player going to be. I'm not expecting him. I don't think he's like an injury-prone player by any means. Played 74 games as a rookie. So, yeah, I'm hoping he will be healthier this year, that Charlotte will be more competitive for the whole team, really. But I think he's still super young and has a lot of room to grow. I'm hoping for a nice year 3 from him.
So I was stumped here. So I went with Kristaps Porzingis for my next pick at pick 50, which I don't hate. It did get my center off the board. As I said, with this kind of a build, you need to get your center earlier rather than later. So I went with Porzingis. He fits the build in terms of he makes his free throws, he hits some threes. So in terms of his skill set, love this pick. But how many games does he play? How many minutes does he play? How do Atlanta use him? There's a lot of question marks. I think they would love for him to play 60 games, 65 games. They'll probably rest him from time to time. They'll manage him a bit. So I think per game, he can certainly smash this. He can still be a top 20 player per game, but how many games does he play? So I was okay with taking him here. I think I was still annoyed that Brandon Miller was gone. And then,
so you just had to take a hawk just to try and get back at me?
Maybe. Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with Porzingis here. And look, looking at the Hawks, you brought it up. I was going to. What are you expecting for the Hawks this season? As a Hawks fan, is this sort of the season that they turn things around, or are they just going to fade out again? FanDuel has them over 46.5 wins, so they're obviously thinking that they're going to be a pretty decent team this year. I think they could win over 50 if things fall into place. Where are you on the Hawks?
So I think FanDuel has them as the fourth best odds to win the East behind the Cavs, Knicks, and Magic, and I think that's a very fair place to have them. But I also think that they could definitely get to potentially 50 games when you think about how weak the Eastern Conference is just in general. Most of this team is, back together, as in they've been playing together. They've had some success, but now Jalen Johnson's going to be healthy this year. Fingers crossed that happens, that he is healthy the whole year, but healthy to start the year. Adding in Porzingis, now you're having this center tandem of Porzingis and Onyeka Okongwu, as opposed to Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, which is just night and day to me. And now you're going to see Trae Young with some floor spacing centers. Is going to be a lot of fun. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a huge addition off the bench. Adding Luke Kennard as a floor spacer. Zachary Risache in year 2, I think he's looked pretty good in the little bits and pieces I've seen of him playing at the early Eurobasket scrimmage game. Same thing with Porzingis. He's looked good. So hopefully Porzingis is able to play more than he has recently, especially the seasons in Boston. But I'm also not sure exactly how the Hawks are going to utilize him, because I think some people think, Porzingis is going to start. Some people, I'm more in the camp of starting Okongwu, but I don't know if that's what I would do, or if that's what they're going to do. So we'll see. But either way, this is, I think, a team that is built really well coached, and is prepared to be really good this year.
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to see something like this is projecting way, way forward, but something like an Atlanta-Detroit Eastern Conference Finals. That would be very cool.
That would be excellent.
Yeah. I just, two young teams that are built really well, which is surprising we can say that about Detroit, given 2-3 years ago they were not built well at all. So they've done really well. So yeah, very curious to see what
Eastern Conference Finals MVP Dyson Daniels. So you just picture it now. I'm just dreaming about it.
I can see him holding the trophy now as we speak. All right. So Porzingis, I took at 50. Coming back, I took Fred VanVleet at 71. As I mentioned earlier, I had him in my queue, but I knew I'd be able to get him a bit later. Pretty happy with him there. Obviously, he doesn't score a lot. No Jalen Green there this year, but Kevin Durant is there. Dylan Brooks is gone as well, but we don't really care about that. So I think Fred VanVleet in this range is still pretty good. He's going to get you 6 or 7 assists, 1.5 steals, 2.5 to 3 threes. Hits his free throws. Field goal percentage is woeful, but he's not a high volume scorer anymore. So he will only get you 12, 13, 14 points a game. So it doesn't really impact too much. And in my build, it doesn't matter at all. You went with Jordan Poole next, who I did have on my queue. So that was a little bit annoying. Another player that you took from me. I think people are, I'm not going to say sleeping on him, but I just think that he was really good last year in Washington. He's now, on paper, he's gone to a better team in New Orleans. What do you see his role? They got rid of CJ McCollum. DeJounte Murray is going to miss at least a couple of months. We don't really have a specific timeline on him, but I think Jordan Poole could actually be a sneaky sort of top 50 guy to start the season at least, assuming the Pelicans can stay healthy and are playing to win, which it would make sense they are, because Zion, they need to do something with Zion.
Well, and they also don't have their first round pick this year. Excuse me. They don't have their first round pick this year because the Hawks have the unprotected pick that's the best between the Pelicans and the Bucks that they got when the Pelicans traded up to get Derek Queen. So they don't have their own first this year. There's no incentive for them to tank. So we could get a full season of Jordan Poole. Even if this team is bad, there's no incentive for them to lose games. So until maybe the last week or two of the season, we could see them trying to win games. We had Matt Lawson and I had a good conversation. He brought some really good points up in the last episode that he was on of my show, talking about Jordan Poole and expecting him to have a really strong year this year in New Orleans after, being much better in year 2 as a Wizard than he was in year 1.
Yep.
And I think that, not having DeJounte Murray there, having Jeremiah Fears as a rookie, like there's not too much that's going to take minutes from him or the ball out of his hands. Really, it's him and Zion as the two primary guys that are going to have the ball. So yeah, I'm expecting a big season from Jordan Poole, but honestly, I thought it was the next guy I took that was the one that really upset me.
Oh yeah,
okay,
we'll get to him. Yeah, no, look, I think people sort of throw Jordan Poole in that bucket with Cam Thomas, who I took pick 74 there. But Jordan Poole, for me, has a little bit more upside in terms of passing. We've seen him play as a facilitator. Obviously, last season, the defensive stats were kind of weird in a good way. So I know for a stretch of the season there, he was top 2, top 3 in steals per game. And it did slow down, but he was very good last year. So I think if he can even go close to repeating that on a team that is motivated to win, if Zion stays healthy, if they figure out their center rotation, I think Poole is a really nice player in this range. Now, you went with Andrew Nembhard next, and yes, he was the player that I wanted. Now, I'm not. I mean, I've spoken about Nembhard in past seasons. I'm not that high on him as a player. I think we've seen snippets of what he can do, but I just think this season, with no Tyrese Halliburton there, TJ McConnell is not someone that they're going to play 30 minutes, but we've seen that in the past. They just don't want to play him 30 minutes. So Nembhard, who was playing starters minutes anyway, is really just going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. Benedict Mathurin probably falls into that bucket as well. So I'm not saying Nembhard is going to come out and put together this top 40 season, but a player that can get you 15, 16 points, 6 or 7 assists. He's a good defender, pesky defender, so he'll get you more than a steal a game. He just does a little bit. So I really was looking at him here to shore up some of those guard categories. And of course, you took him, so I had to take Cam Thomas, who is the opposite. He just scores. He doesn't do much else. So I had to go in a pivot and go in a different direction here. Where are you on Nembhard? Because I know some people would go, oh, you don't need to take Nembhard this high. I think he's just going to slowly creep into this range as a somewhat proven guard who has basically the world at his feet, at least for the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that maybe at this point I'm going to take in this range with the expectation that he has a good chance of finishing much higher. Actually, just to bring it up again, had a good conversation with Matt Lawson on the show last week where he was talking about the on-off splits of Nembhard with Tyrese Halliburton and about how many assists Nembhard was able to get, in the 7 to 8 per game range when Halliburton was out. And along with that, this is going to be a different Pacers team than, Tyrese Halliburton's out for a game or two. Tyrese Halliburton's out for a couple weeks. Andrew Nembhard is our point guard now. This is a full season preparing for Nembhard to be the point guard. The offense is going to, if it needs to be, tailored more towards having him as the lead ball handler. We've seen him have a lot more success in the postseason than in the regular season, but I don't see a reason why that can't spill over this year when they really do kind of need him to step up his usage. So yeah, I'm expecting a really monster season from Andrew Nembhard. Honestly, is a high level scorer. Hits more than he's the last 2 years hit less than a 3 per game. I think that number easily goes way up. The assists, the steals, he's a high level defender. Maybe the efficiency drops off just from higher usage, but Yeah, no, I'm expecting a really, really strong season from Andrew Nembhard.
Cam Thomas, I mean, we know who he is. We know what he does. Assuming he's back in Brooklyn, which isn't confirmed yet, but wherever he is, if he's playing 26 minutes, he'll get you 18, 20 points. I do think that we've seen probably in the last 12 months, I know he's been injured with some hamstring things, which is a little bit concerning, especially on a team like Brooklyn, because we know that if there's any inkling of an injury, they will just pull him out of the lineup and sit him for 2 months. But I do think we've seen little bits of other stats from him, some assists, a little bit of defense. So, yes, the bar is pretty low for a guy like him, but I think any additional stats is a bonus. Coming back, pick 95, I took Scoot Henderson, who I don't know. I mean, the Portland rotation is still questionable. We don't know exactly who fits where. Common sense would say it's time for them to lean into Scoot. Third year in the league, they've been pretty cautious with him. Yes, Drew Holiday is there. We know Dame is there, but Dame won't play this season, or at least probably won't play the whole season. We don't know where Drew Holiday fits, but I don't know. Where are you on Scoot? I think I've seen enough from him to think that he could comfortably be a top 100 player if he starts and plays 32 minutes a night. The question is, does he start and play 32 minutes a night, or does he start and play 25 minutes, or does he come off the bench? Portland's a little bit confusing still.
That's the $1 million question. Is Scoot Henderson going to start at point guard, or is he going to come off the bench? Is Drew Holiday going to be the point guard? Are they both going to start? Is Drew Holiday going to come off the bench? Like, we don't know at this point, but I think it's worth taking the upside swing here on a guy like Scoot Henderson, because we could see a year 3 breakout. He is a really talented point guard. We've seen him have nice, really like long stretches. We just haven't seen him put fully together, but he also wasn't a starter for much of last season.
No.
So yeah, I think that if that happens, maybe at some point this year, maybe at the beginning of the year, Scoot could be in for a breakout year.
Yeah, I love getting him in this kind of range. This is where we're starting to get into flyer territory, and I think he is a pretty obvious top, as I said, top 100. But if things fall into place and he's getting you 17 points, 7 assists, 1.2 steals, some threes, he attacks the basket well, he could be a top 60 player. We will see. You went with Anthony Simons and D'Angelo Russell. So as we spoke about earlier, you took some bigs very early and needed to rack up some of these guard stats late. Anthony Simons is, I don't know, he's playing for Boston. All accounts are that Boston aren't necessarily locked in on him as a piece of their future. For this season, I don't think it really matters because they're not really playing for anything anyway other than draft picks. Do you think he starts? There's talk that Peyton Pritchard will start and Simons will come off the bench, which to me, if Simons is playing 30 minutes off the bench, I actually don't hate that. I think that would be, I mean, you could argue that he'd even have a more of a significant role coming off the bench, because if you look at their depth, it's not very good. So he would be clearly the alpha in that second unit. And taking him, I think top 100 is pretty safe for Simons.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Peyton Pritchard obviously have a ton of success last year as a sixth man that plays a ton of minutes, and I think Simons is a better player. I don't know, but I mean, they do a lot of the like same things. So if Pritchard starts, I think Simons plays a ton of minutes off the bench, has basically a green light to go shoot a ton of threes, get some assists. If he starts, then maybe it's a little bit of a lower usage, but like still playing starters minutes. And I think a goal here for Boston, if like they're already basically saying they're not set on keeping him, so why would you acquire him and then just let him rot on your bench? Like, you're probably going to try and look to improve his trade value. So give him a little bit of a green light, plenty of minutes, and if it ends up being a trade, it ends up being a trade. But I'm expecting them to go to him for offense, because outside of Pritchard and Jaylen Brown, and I guess Derek White, who I don't think is like this. You're not going to Derek White for a ton of ISOs or like, hey, we need a bucket. Like, he's a high level player. But Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and now Anthony Simons are like creating the majority of your shots this season.
All right, so now we're basically, as I said, we're at pick 97 for you, pick 98 for me. So we are into that flyer late round dart throw kind of territory, and we're at 35 minutes. So let's group your final 5 picks, and then we'll group
Sure.
my final 5 picks. So you went with D'Angelo Russell, Derek Lively, Bilal Koulibaly, who another player you took from me. I wanted him there. VJ Edgecombe and Trey Johnson. So we touched on Trey Johnson and VJ Edgecombe when we were talking about the rookie odds earlier. Anything like, what are your thoughts on these guys in general? Any of them, all of them?
Yeah. Well, I went Derek Lively and Bilal Koulibaly back to back. It was right after you took Devin Vassell from me, which him falling to 119, I think is incredible value. He should go a good bit earlier than that. So, but I was happy to take starting center Derek Lively. And his point guard that'll be throwing him some lobs, and D'Angelo Russell. My expectations aren't too high for D'Lo, but some threes, some assists as a starting point guard temporarily until Kyrie Irving is healthy. And then Derek Lively, a starting center that's splitting some minutes, but is a talented player, so I'm willing to bet on the upside. And Koulibaly, same thing, young player, really good defender, could take a nice step forward in year 3. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, no, I've never really been in on Koulibaly, but I do feel like just in this range, you sort of have to take him. So yeah, look, I went with Tamani Kamara, Devin Vassell, Kevin Porter, Cam Whitmore, Malik Monk. Tamani Kamara, I love getting him here. Last season, he was one of the guys that I had him in a lot of leagues, and there was a period there, sort of midway through the season, where a lot of questions. Do we hold Tamani Kamara? I think that was the number one question I had on my mailbag show when I did it. Do we hold him? Yes, hold him. He's there's some games where he's only giving you 9 points, but he's getting steals. He's a good rebounder. And eventually, I mean, he wasn't even penciled in, I think, for a lot of us as a starter last season. So when Portland actually started him, we were a bit surprised. And that was the reason I drafted him. I said, well, he's starting, he's going to play 30 minutes. Just let's see what he can do. And he turned into one of their really good players, very consistent last season. So I love getting him here. Devin Vassell, as you said, this is way too low, 119. I know that the Spurs are far more talented than they were 2 years ago, but I still think Vassell is a key piece for them. He's going to play big minutes. He's not going to have that top 50, top 40 upside that I sort of thought he had 2 years ago, but definitely a top 80 player. Kevin Porter, I hate Kevin Porter, but if he's going to start at point guard for the Bucks, he will accumulate stats. That's what he does. Malik Monk, I took last. Look, let's just see what his role looks like in Sacramento this season. I just want to spend 30 seconds on Cam Whitmore. So pretty disappointing in Houston. He was pretty vocal about the fact that he didn't necessarily agree with how they were using him. His opinion of himself probably doesn't line up with the opinion of the general population and coaches and that sort of thing. But in Washington, if he's going to start and Washington just say, hey, go out there, play the Kyle Kuzma role and just do your thing, shoot the ball, do whatever you want to do. We've seen him be a high volume scorer in low minutes. So if he's going to play 28, 30 minutes a game, Cam Whitmore could average 20 points a game and some other stuff. I mean, where are you on Cam Whitmore?
I think that would be best case scenario. I'm pretty out on Cam Whitmore, especially for this year. I'm lower on him in Dynasty than a lot of other people are. I think he is a talented basketball player and a talented scorer, but like you said, kind of like the overinflated opinion of himself. They also just traded 2 seconds to get him. They've invested lottery picks or first round picks in other players. They only had to give up 2 second rounders to give him. So I don't think he necessarily starts over some of the other guys that they've added recently, like a Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson being there, obviously Bilal Koulibaly, like guys they've invested first round picks in. So he could have a role off the bench. And if he does well in that role, then sure, maybe he could eventually earn a starting spot, but I don't think that happens early on. And I'm not a believer that it actually does unless it gets to be later on towards silly season.
Yeah. And to be clear, yes, I'm not that high on him. I just think that this is the opportunity for him. If he wants to establish himself as an NBA player, it needs to happen this year because teams are going to go, if you couldn't do it playing for Washington, then you're not going to do it playing for us. So, yes, I would much rather Keyshawn George. He's another guy that I'm pretty keen on taking in this range as well, if you can get him. All right, we've hit 40 minutes. We've talked about our teams. Let people know what's happening in the world of Noah Rubin.
In the world of Noah Rubin, I'm still doing, it was 5 days a week. Now it's like 3 to 4 days a week Dynasty shows because sometimes I get lazy or have other things going on. But pretty consistent Dynasty episodes still coming out with Matt Lawson on once a week. And yeah, that's really all we've got going on right now. And then a lot of other preseason content coming soon, which I'll announce when it happens.
Very good. Go and follow Noah at Noah Rubin 22. Remember, jump over to FanDuel as well. There's lots of weird betting. I was just scrolling through stuff. Man, you can bet on anything. You can actually bet on Victor Wembanyama to record a quadruple double this season. I feel like it's going to happen. Do you reckon he can do it? I just think if there's one player who will do it, it's him. Any chance that it happens? I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I think that one, he is the guy to do it. I think it's not unrealistic at all for that to happen, just in the sense that I don't remember if we've seen him. I think we've seen him get to 10 blocks. I don't remember what his career high is, or what his career high for assists is, but he's a good enough passer that we could definitely see that. Yeah, that would be pretty phenomenal. We haven't had one for a long time. Was David Robinson the last? I'm not sure. I think he might have been. Do it? Maybe. I don't know. Look, you do that very quickly while I tell people where to go. At Adam King 91, at Noah Rubin 22, at Old Man Squad, YouTube, Spotify, all of those places. Please go and like and rate and subscribe and everything that helps us build. Did you come up with the answer to that? Yeah, there's 4 players that have done it in NBA history. Do you have time for a quick guessing game, or do you want me to I can just say them if you'd rather. I know David Robinson is one of them. That's the most recent one in 1994. He is the most recent, yeah. So, you're going back, aren't you, to like Wilt? Wilt they didn't record blocks when Wilt, because I'm sure Russell would have gotten it, but no, that was in 94. There's one in 1990, one in 1986, and one in 1974. I think you can get the one in 1990. The other two, I'm not sure. 1990. I wouldn't even know. Hakeem didn't do it, did he? It was Hakeem. Hakeem? Okay. Yeah. Yep. And beyond that, no. I wouldn't know. 86. So in 86, it was Alvin Robertson. He did it with steals. Okay. And then Nate Thurmond did it in 1974. All right. Maybe Dyson will get one. Well, maybe. Probably not, but there you go. A little plug for Dyson Daniels there. All right, I'm going to let you go. I've got to go and get my kids to school. He is Noah Rubin. I am Adam King. You've been listening to Stuff It Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We are done.